You're live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council special meeting of Tuesday, February 6th, 2023. I apologize for the delay. We're calling the meeting to order at 6:10 p.m. due to some technical issues. If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Next item this evening is the roll call. Susan's not with us, so James, you'll take care of that, please.
Recording secretary too. Councilor Rodrigo.
Here.
Councilor Camillo.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Mankey.
Here.
Councilor Nagel.
Here.
Councilor Page.
Here.
Councilor Rada.
Here.
Mayor Dobino.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Next item this evening is public participation. This is a special meeting, so we just ask that public participation is limited to the items on the agenda, which are tonight, this evening, resignations, appointments, Newington Town Council, appoint a replacement. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you state your name and address for the record when you do come up. We do have some folks online with their hands raised, as well as I'm sure folks in the room that will want to speak. So typically I would try to alternate between the two and take turns that way. Just out of respect for both types of folks that are participating. And if you are on the Zoom application, you can raise your hand in the participants window. If you are zooming in via phone, *9 will do the raise hand function so that we know you want to be recognized. With that, I'll open the floor. Anyone in the room that would like to come up to start may. If not, I have a hand up online. Come on, no, come on up. I offered it to the room.
Clark Castell, 167 Connecticut Avenue in Newington. For once in my life, this gas bag doesn't know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. I'm trying to understand where the notion that came from, where it is right under any circumstances in any sphere of life and in choosing who your adversary is going to be. So I've been really struggling with this over the last couple of days, and I came up with some analogies, starting with my ex-wife.
Always a good place to start.
How I would have loved to have a hand in choosing her divorce lawyer. I'm thinking of my brother, public defender, how he would love to have had a hand in choosing the prosecutors in some of his cases. And the reductio ad absurdum would be Vladimir Putin having a say in who Ukraine's next minister of defense is going to be. That's how absurd I think the situation is. I remember a couple of years ago, looking across the council table, I believe that most or perhaps none of the Republicans at the table were elected officials. I believe all three had been appointed. Even Mike Linares, when he was mayor, was never elected mayor. Some of you, from Councilor Nagel, I think you were one of them. I would never have, no force on earth would have induced me to vote for somebody who had not been nominated by the Republican Town Committee. I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I'm just saying how I feel. Do I have any time? Yeah. Okay. So what I want to say is this. I think the general statute that protects minority representation, and I'm talking about the minimum of 3. I really think that by voting for somebody who, a nominee who hasn't been chosen by the town council or by the Democratic Town Committee, is weakening or has the potential to weaken and impair the cohesion and the efficacy or efficiency of this protected minority. And I really think that the spirit of that law, that you would be violating that spirit if you voted for anybody else except the nominee of the town committee. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. I'll quickly take an online call, and then whoever's next in the room is welcome to come up and sit, and then you can be next. Representative Turco?
Can you hear me okay, Mayor?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council, and guests that are in the room. I'm at the state capitol, an event here, so I'm so sorry I can't be there in person, but I felt it was important to speak on Zoom tonight on the vote that you're about to all cast. And I know you know my feelings about this already because I spoke previously at the last meeting. But yes, it has been stated, and you have a legal opinion that says that the council has a right to choose who the minority representative is, as long as that person is a registered Democrat. But just because something is, you can do legally does not mean it's the right thing to do. You have a second chance at this, and I ask you all to think deeply what you would like to happen if roles were reversed. And I know, several, the mayor and others have been appointed with a Democratic majority when roles were reversed to be on the council. You're selecting someone tonight whose responsibility it is to be the minority voice and represent the Democratic Party. And Attorney Anacona was recently quoted in the Rare Reminder saying that this vote had to happen as quickly as it did because minority representation is important, which I agree with. But this vote you're making tonight, if you don't vote for the person nominated by the Democratic Town Committee, is making a mockery of that. Someone who's registered a certain party affiliation does not mean that that individual is a current representative of the party, despite whatever offices they would have held in the past. The only one that gets to decide that is the current elected Democratic Town Committee members who have a nomination process, they have a selection process, and they get to choose who's the representative of their party. As Clark Costello just mentioned in previous testimony, you don't want the other political party choosing who the leaders of the other political party are. It's just an important part of our democracy, our government, our institutions, and checks and balances on that is our political party system. And we can't have one party choosing the leaders of who the other party is. It's totally negating that important minority representation. So thank you for your time. I got to get to the event that I have here. You have lots of people you have to hear from tonight, I'm sure, that will also weigh in on this. But I just ask you, in the true spirit and nature of bipartisanship, the true nature and spirit of what minority representation is supposed to mean, that you reconsider your vote tonight and elect John Trister, the Democratic Town Committee, the Democratic Party of Newington's current choice for representation. And then lastly, I heard a lot of respect for Sharon Braverman at the last meeting and all the wonderful work she's done for Newington. Sharon has spoke out and asked that you all please respect her wishes and nominate John Trister tonight to be on the town council as well. I hope out of respect of Sharon and her great work, that will be taken under consideration. Thank you all for your time, and good luck with your decision tonight.
Thank you, Representative Turco. All right, is there anyone in the room that would like to come up? Welcome.
Kathy Gonzalez, 44 Basswood Street. I am here in support of John Trister. I don't think there is any question as to if John would be an excellent addition to our town council. He is dedicated and willing to volunteer his time to putting the needs of our town first. And I truly believe that that is exactly what he will do. Everybody sitting here in the audience and up here knows exactly what is going on and why. When people are doing the right thing, they don't have to hide it or keep it a secret. John is a member of the town's planning and zoning, as well as the town's insurance committee. John went through a nominating process that has been in place and respected by both parties for many, many years. I do not understand why that process is not being upheld now. I am asking this town council, deputy mayor, to please think about your vote. Please do what is right for our town. Please vote John Trister to the town council. Councilman Page said it best. He really did. Just because you can do something absolutely does not mean that it's right. I am asking you to do the right thing. Thank you.
I will take an online call next. Ms. Nathis?
Hey there. How are you all doing tonight?
Good, welcome.
Thank you. I would be there in person, but I'm not in the country, or I'm in the country, but not in the state right now. But I did feel this was such an important issue that I did want to weigh in on it. And before I say anything, the one thing I would like to do is thank Carol Annist for her many years of dedicated service to Newington, not only as an elected official, but as a party chair and as a volunteer. I personally will always be grateful to her for her support of me over the many years that I was serving in public service and beyond. And she definitely has earned her retirement that she took in 2021. Tonight, though, I'm hoping that the discussion doesn't focus on some of the anger and backroom things that have been going on, but rather the best interests of our community. Clark certainly said it well in his comments. We've all been around for a lot of years, and there's been decades of precedent that has been set regarding appointments of vacancies. And I see no reason why we would change these time-honored traditions that have been so well established and have really been a precedent for each party to respect each other. In fact, you, Mayor, you were appointed, as I think Gary mentioned. Councilor Nagel, I believe you were also, and I can tell you that I was too. I was appointed by a Republican majority back when I was first put on the town council back in 1990, I think I went on. So anyway, the point is that this has worked. We've respected each other's party by allowing the town committees to go through their processes, choose their candidates through a process, and then respecting each other to appoint the people that our town committees have chosen. Carol herself, when she was party chair, she encouraged a whole generation of leaders. And I think if anyone had ever suggested that this happen, in fact, I'm sure there was an appointment, maybe one of you were there when she was our town chair, she would never have entertained something like this. It's just the future of the community, and its leadership was too important to her. And I think it sets such a bad precedent by making this change. If Beth, Dave, and I had not been appointed, would we have gone on to continue in public service? It squashes people's initiative. Is that the example that we want to set, for people, younger people that we want to have get involved? There's a choice you have before you tonight, as you all know. And I just really urge you to follow the time-honored example of the leaders who came before you, tabling the existing motion before you tonight and appointing John Trister as Dr. Sharon Braverman's replacement on the Newington Town Council. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Nathis.
Excuse me. Hi, Gia Pasquarelli, 62 Wells Drive North. I just wanted to start out by saying that I'm on Open Space Committee, full member, and I'm on Town Planning and Zoning as an alternate. I spoke the other night about my support of John, and I really completely agree. Really, the primary thing to me is that the tradition and the respect the two parties continue to have respect, have decorum, don't play politics, do the right thing, that's primary. But what I want to say tonight is something additional because it affected me personally. And the political process, or I should say the appointment process, became a political process. So we'll look at my notes because it'll be better. I'm disappointed in how things have gone so far with the Sharon Braverman's seat and putting a person not appointed by the Democratic Town Committee as the traditional process. And what really upsets me about this is that it reminds me of another petty political game that was played with a Democratic appointment to a town board. The board was TPZ, and the person who was unfairly targeted was me. In January of last year, the Democratic Town Committee put forth a search for a TPZ alternate to fill a Democratic TPZ alternate seat. The process of interviews and vetting for this volunteer position took place, and I was selected. Now, I'm not privy to all of the details in the conversations, but when John Kelly informed Dominic Payne that I was selected, his response was, no, she can't be on TPZ. John asked for an explanation, a reason. Come on, what's going on? What did she do? Trust me, I'm not a felon. I work in a controlled industry. I've had background checks done more than any of you guys combined. But ultimately, Dominic Payne told John Kelly, if you put her up, I can guarantee you're going to have 6 votes against her on town council. Now, I think if you told an average person that they were going to have to sit through that kind of scrutiny, they would probably say, you know what, screw it. I've got a life. I've got things to do. I don't need to volunteer. I don't need that kind of scrutiny. But I grew up in Queens in the 1970s, and I just said, bring it. And eventually, after many months of us not having our seat filled on TPZ, so that alone is a problem, my name was put forward, and I think you guys know how this ended. You all unanimously voted for me. So what I'm saying is you guys know how to do the right thing. You guys don't always fall prey to the political convenience, taking a shot against the competitor. Do the thing that is really needed. Keep the town unified. Don't bring undue scrutiny on yourselves for something that is just a political convenience. So I really ask all of you counselors who voted for me before and mayor to please use your vote to unify the town. Thank you.
Ms. Pasquarelli? I do have another hand up online, so we'll go there. Representative Farrar, are you there?
Hi there. Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Similar to Representative Turco, I'm also at the Capitol, so thank you for making this Zoom attendance possible. I just would like to use a few minutes of your time to share a little bit of my thoughts, hopefully, and some of the thoughts that I've heard from some Newington residents. And it really comes from a place of, as an elected state representative myself, I do think that as an elected official, we often think that one of our most important roles is to build trust, not just in ourselves as elected officials to represent the people, but really also in our democratic form of government. As democracy and these institutions of democracy are dependent on us making these decisions every day as elected officials to uphold representation by the people and for the people, in your case, the people of Newington. And so, kind of in tune with some of what has already been heard tonight, I just really share my deep disappointment in any choice that might be made by the majority members of the council to ignore a democratic tradition of filling a town council vacancy with the party's official nominated candidate. This really comes down to a respected process, a respected tradition, and ensuring that a nominated minority representation candidate as appointed should not be ignored. You only have to consider this situation, and I know you likely have, if it really was the other way around. If you were in the minority, would you want the same process to happen to your endorsed candidate? And I think tonight's actions could potentially break the trust of the town council with the people of Newington. So I strongly encourage the Newington Town Council to vote to appoint the Democratic Town Committee endorsed candidate John Trister for the vacant position, and to honor our democratic institution, to honor our minority representation, and to truly honor the legacy of Sharon Braverman with tonight's vote before you. So thank you again for the opportunity to join you remotely, and I look forward to the rest of the proceedings, and I look forward to your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Farrar. All right, anyone in the room?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Neil Ryan, 237 Braga Street, still the heart and soul of Newington. Well, it appears as if the town council is going to vote to appoint Carol Annis to the town council as the replacement for Sharon Braverman, who has recently stepped down from position on the town council. This is troubling for several reasons. First is the fact that this council is going to ignore approximately 55 years of history, tradition, precedent, and history. No Newington Town Council has ever pulled a stunt like this. Apparently, the only reason this is being done is to consolidate Republican town council power. This move isn't helping the town in any way. Don't even try and call this bipartisan move. It's not. It's polar opposite. It's purely a partisan effort. Now, next, I want to discuss the letter from Carol Annis that has pretty much brought us to this point tonight. In his February 3rd email to the town council and town attorney, subject renewal of appointment for Newington Town Council vacancy, the town manager notes that he received a letter from Carol Annis on January 23rd, 2023, which is actually a day before the last town council meeting. In her letter, she asked to be considered for Sharon Braverman's position on the town council. Carol also asked the town manager to circulate her letter to the town council and the town attorney so that they can consider her for the vacant town council position. Now, as far as I can tell, this is not the process used to fill a vacated town council seat. Personally, if I was the town manager and I received such a letter, I'd do one of two things. I would either throw it in my garbage can, or I would return the letter to Carol and explain to her that if she's really interested in filling the Democratic Town Council seat, she should send the letter to the Newington Democratic Town Committee chair and sit down and meet with the NDTC's nominating committee and explain why she should be appointed to the town council. That's the proper way in which to go about filling a vacant seat. And now to page 2. To me, the letter sent by Carol to the town manager has no authority or validity to accomplish anything. It's meaningless. It's totally meaningless. I mean, could I send the town manager a similar letter telling him I'm interested in the town council position too? Would my letter be just as valid? There's a blatant attempt to ignore the proper procedures for filling a town council vacancy. The Republican Town Council is not interested in following the rules or proper procedures. They just want to play games. When you vote tonight to appoint Carol to the town council as a result of her letter, you'll be completely destroying the process which town council vacancies are filled. And there's one more thing. As far as I can tell, Carol's name hasn't been nominated and put forward by either town committee. Now that has to be a problem on some level. I think the town attorney should try looking into that. On a personal note, I want to say though that I've been a member of the NDTC for some time. Carol was chair from 2007 to 2014. She was an excellent chair who I always supported and spoke well of. However, she seems to have lost her way over the last several years. She may be a Democrat, but her action and conduct shows that she has become a Republican. Finally, this is fun. I know nothing I can say is going to change your minds, but I want each of you to remember that there's a little thing in this world known as karma. And you might want to think about that before you vote tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll take a call online next. Ms. Havens?
Hello, Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I just wanted to, kind of address some of the things I've heard today, as well as say what I was going to say. In that, state statute does say that what Carol did was totally allowable. I also my feelings are this, that the town committees, whether it be Republican or Democrat, are just a handpicked select few that are representing everyone else. And I believe that this law was written the way it was written, and Carol was able to do what she was able to do because our forefathers saw that, like, okay, this little click, they get clicky. Let's make sure everybody in town, every registered Democrat or every registered Republican gets a chance should the need arise to put their name in. So I applaud the people who thought of this, and I applaud Carol for the bravery to do this. And as far as saying tradition doesn't trump law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Havens. Someone else in the room like to come up? If not, I do have another caller online. Welcome, Mr. France.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Mark France, 288 Williamstown Court. And I'd like to just pause for a moment because as a younger public servant here in this town, relatively new to public service, I think that first and foremost, in my humble opinion, what needs to take place in this town is healing. Okay, is healing. Now, I would not make claims to appeal to your intellect, but I would try to make claims to appeal to your heart, okay, to appeal into your emotion. I know emotions got a little iffy, but if we keep them in check, then I think we have a shot at playing fair ball, to use a baseball analogy or basketball or whatever. I'd like to see John be on the town council, not just because he was endorsed by 42 members of Democrats that represent, we hope, in the larger majority, the voice of Democrats in town. I just think that it's the right thing to do. I think we could set a precedent here by having a change of heart and not have this back and forth between parties and stuff like that. That's not appealing to me about public service. For me, it's about putting my preferences aside and doing the right thing for the right reason. Doing the right thing for the right reason. I think for Mr. Trister, his family, the Democrats here in town and the DTC, in my opinion, the right thing to do is to have the council move forward with his nomination by voting for him. I think Miss Annis is a tremendous person. I know her somewhat. I think that for her to be given so much of her life to public service and to not give Mr. Trister the chance to fill in not only in her footsteps and walk in her footsteps, but walk in Dr. Braverman's footsteps and bring his own thought, his own convictions to this council to serve this town would be a disservice not only to the Democrats, or I think it would just be a disservice to the electorate and to the people here in Newington in general. So I thank you for your time, and I appeal to your heart in this vote, more so than your mind, because the mind could be poisonous. The mind could do tricky things, but please follow your heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franz. I'll take another online caller. Caller ID says Chris. Chris, if you're there,
He's muted.
yeah, and I haven't asked to unmute button. I've pushed it a few times, so I don't know what's happening.
Hello,
There we go. We can hear you. If you could state your name and address, we'd appreciate that.
it's not Chris, it's Michael J. Fox, 1901 Main Street. I apologize, I didn't see the unmute button. I'm not used to the computer.
All
Somebody-
right, welcome.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say much today because I think at the last meeting, I made my particular preference and ideas clear. But once again, I'm here to actually advocate for viable minority representation. The process has been broken on and off for quite a while. And I'm not going to go through Carol's accomplishments. I don't have time. None of us have time. But I will say that just about the same thing I said last time. John Trister is a good man. But I think one of the things in my mind is that I do not think he is ready. Not that it's, an opinion, I think it's my opinion. I've seen how he works. I really think he needs to hang around a little more. And like I said, I wasn't going to say too much until one of your speakers mentioned that Carol Annis has lost her way. Carol has not lost her way. She is still a registered Democrat. She still believes in democratic principles. She still believes and is extremely capable of working across party lines to get things done. She is very experienced in budget, not only on the town council, but in other areas of town service and in private enterprise. Yeah, and so I don't know what's going to happen. A couple of people seem to think they know what's going to happen, but all I have to say is I'd like to see town council, Carol Annis back on the town council and help guide the two, I'll call them rookies, no offense, Mitch and Kim, and guide them so that in the future, the rest of their term here, they can be advocates for the town, and they have somebody whose footsteps in which they can follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. All right, we'll come back into the room if anybody would like to come forward. If not, I have another caller online. Caller ID says Greg Ostrinsky. Caller, if you're there, you can unmute. As we know, caller ID is not always accurate.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, this is my first time calling in. Hi, so my name is Greg Ostrinsky. I live at 267 Audubon Avenue. I just wanted to call in and say that I've worked with John for about a year now, and I've seen how much he enjoys volunteering for the town and working as a public servant for the town of Newington. And so I am supporting his appointment to the town council.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else in the room like to come forward? I have one more caller online with their hand up. Forrest Helvey.
Hi, this is Forrest Helvey, 282 Lamplighter Lane. I don't want to speak on behalf of either one of the individuals. I voted for both individuals at one time or another. That to me isn't really the concern. Points were raised before about something may be permissible, but that doesn't necessarily make it right. And that seems to be resonating for me, at least. as a resident. The other thing that I think about is, what are the long-term implications of this? It's not going to change, votes. I don't think, as we move into budget season and beyond. But what worries me is I think about how it might break something within people in our town. Younger voters, younger people who want to get involved and serve, how this might jade them, and discourage them from stepping forward. We have a process that we've used for years, but it doesn't maybe work for them. I think that concerns me. It concerns me a little bit. I know we have so much bickering that happens now and again, but I know there's people on our council that want to work across the aisles, that have worked across the aisles. And I worry about how this might impact that negatively. So not looking at either one of the individuals, if either one of them had run last November, I would have been happy voting for either one of them. But that's not the situation we're in right now. And so thinking about maintaining a level of respect for one another, for one party respecting the other party, I would just ask that we think about those longer term implications for the well-being of our town, not whether it's permissible and allowed, but is it good for our town as you move forward with your vote. And just want to thank you. I know it's a late evening and you're all volunteering this evening. So thank you again for your time and thoughts, and just as you move forward with this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Hovey. Anyone else in the room?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors. Alexis de Tocqueville wrote in the 19th century that in America, he saw more than America. He saw the image of democracy itself, with its inclinations, its character, its prejudices, and its passions. I fear we are too often governed by the latter two. The greatest.
Are you willing to state your name and address for the record?
New York, 150 Dowd Street.
Thank you. Continue.
The greatest danger de Tocqueville saw in American democracy was that the majority can marginalize the majority. Precedent of law supersedes precedent of circumstance. But now, much like the prejudices and passions, the precedent of circumstance governs the decision-making process and is paralyzing and polarizing. I ask that we all find a way to simply come together and make a decision that's not based on anything other than intellectual. I don't ask to see your heart. I only ask to look in your minds. And I think that's all we can do as a town. This town should not be torn apart by a D, an R, or somewhere in the middle. Now, if it's a handshake deal that can no longer be, honored, we have to move forward as a town on that. But we all have to recognize that, with everything that you move forward on and everything that you do, the precedent of law sometimes becomes the precedent of circumstance. And that circumstance now might eliminate those handshake deals, that bipartisanship, that colloquialism that we share as a town. I just hope there's a way forward where we just talk to each other. We talk to each other in a way where, maybe it's you're standing in line voting and you talk to somebody who's a different party, or you're holding some signs from your political party, standing next to somebody else who's holding some signs at a political party, and you share some great conversation, and politics never come up. I just hope that decisions are made purely based on the who, what, where, when, and why somebody might do a great job for this town. And then in November, you can settle things on a Democrat or Republican basis. But from an appointed basis to fill out a term, I think we just need to come together and then, as two parties do, and maybe a third party does, or maybe people crossing lines, we all find a way to move together and forward as a town. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll take another online. Caller ID says Cheryl Mortensen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So this isn't actually Cheryl Mortensen, because as most of you know, Rod Mortensen and myself is pretty much a dinosaur. And I have had my wife set this up for me. So Rod Mortensen 17 Fox Lane. And I'm proud of it, to be honest with you. I'm still in the old world. I just wanted to call in and give a couple of thoughts. I'm not representing anybody. As you know, I'm independent. I've had scuffs with both parties at different times over the years. I've had praise for both parties at different times. This is really, I feel like I'm representing the town of Newington. I think that maybe one day someone woke up and had a bad idea that made it to this point. And I just think it's a bad precedent. It has absolutely nothing to do with the two people involved. I know Carol Annis, probably she's right up at the top of how many hours that she's volunteered for the town. That's unquestionable. I don't know the gentleman, Mr. Trista, but I've also heard comments of people, well, somebody's got more experience, or, you're new, you're not ready. Let me tell you, every one of you sitting there, including myself sitting here, were new at one time. When I started as a counselor, I didn't know jack about the operation of the town, but it's on the job training. So you can just wipe that out. So again, it's got nothing to do with the two people. I think that the precedent of doing it this way, you're putting in jeopardy the whole appointment system. Anybody theoretically, whether the council is appointing somebody on TPZ, Parks and Rec Board, a building committee, any of the commissions, the majority party could put up a person from the minority party. It just doesn't make sense. The 32 years I've been involved, it just has, I've never seen anything like it. I think you also have to think about, some towns end up getting a reputation of being very political. We're looking for a town manager, and right now he or she may be looking at the town saying, ooh, these guys are really turning to the political side, which makes it a much more difficult job as a town manager. I think overall, this mayor and this council have done a very good job. And I guess I would just say, don't spoil that and make a bad idea become a bad reality. I've made mistakes. You look back on it and say, maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe it shouldn't have gotten this far. As many of the speakers said, I think the two town committees should get along a little bit better, whether it be the members, the chairmans, I don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't really want to know. I don't get mixed up in the political doings, whatever. It's kind of like put in front of your mind what's best for the town of Newington. Let's not upset the apple cart. Otherwise, you may get rid of the two-party system. And to be quite honest, as an independent, that wouldn't make me all that sad. But I think you need to just reconsider it. And maybe it was a bad idea. Nobody's going to look badly on anybody if you change your mind. I've changed my mind in a lot of things. So good luck, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mortensen. Okay, anyone else in the room? All right, I'll go to the next caller online. Stein Ramstad.
Yes, stay in Ramstad, 555 Main Street. And I appreciate your time. It's going to be it's a long evening. There's a lot of people wanting to chime in here, and I think that goes to show that there is a lot of concern in town. There's a large number of people speaking on public participation now, and I think people, as Mr. Mortensen just before me here, are rightfully concerned about the potential precedents this could set. The majority party should not choose the replacements for the minority party. I mean, that's how it's always been. That's how I think it should be. And I think that it is baffling to me that we are even considering that. And I think I think it would do a great deal of harm when it comes to recruiting candidates for the various boards and commissions and council, and I think that it would harm the sort of the way we work together in town. It would make things more contentious and less cooperative, and I don't think that would benefit anyone. And as a lot of people have said, this has, in my mind, very little to do with the two individuals. I've been in town I've lived here for 12 years now or so. Carol Anist was one of the very first Democrats I met, and I became active in the Democrats in great deal thanks to her. She took me under her wing, and we worked a lot together. She is a great volunteer, is a great leader in town, has done great work. Has very little to do with her. I think it's important that we respect the process and that we respect the minority party's right to make their nominations and replacements. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll offer it up to the room one more time. We do have another hand up online. Okay, we'll go to the caller online. Francesca Lucia, is it the caller ID?
Hi there, thank you so much. My name is Francesca Lucia and I live at 79 Hawley Street. I did make comments when this was first being considered on behalf of John Trister. And I do recognize that we are here on a technicality. And so, I'm not sure if any votes of the majority party will change, but I certainly hope that they will. I know there's been a lot of talk about who's chosen John Trister and who's recommended that he, replace Councilwoman Braverman here on the council. And, it's the 42 members of the Newington Democratic Town Committee. I do want to point out that John, and I said this the last time I spoke here, John ran for this office in 2021. He was on the ballot. 3,102 people in Newington voted to have John be a member of this council. And were it not for 142 votes, he would be your colleague here this evening. So I agree with everything that's been said before me about respecting the nominations of the minority party. I do believe that it is good practice to have a good working relationship with other members of our party. But I would, like to see the recommendation of not only the town committee, but of all of those new voters that did want to see John in this position previously. So thank you all for your time. I know it's a late evening, especially, when you all have a lot of other work that you're doing. So I do appreciate all that you do. And that's the end of my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Lucia. All right, anyone else in the room? Come forward.
Hi. My name is Patricia Miller. I live at 151 7th Street. Honestly, this is the first time I've ever been in a town council meeting. And I didn't know, I thought I was coming for a different reason. So I just want to ask, if it doesn't take too long, if it could be summed up in a couple sentences, so I don't want to take time.
Just so you know, we don't,
I just don't know what the,
our rules don't allow us to exchange during public participation, but after public participation, we do usually respond if there were questions
All right.
as best we can.
well, what I'm thinking is, what are the attributes of these two people who I know nothing about that would make you decide one way or another? And why, when you vote? That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? There are no hands online, so we will continue on. Thank you all for your comments this evening and for taking the time to address the council. We did not receive any email correspondence to my knowledge. Anyone? No? Okay, thank you. I will move in now to remarks by councilors on public participation. Anyone? Councilor Page?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of comments first about process, and I'll ask our town attorney and our interim town manager if you could respond. While I'm frustrated with our town attorney and disappointed, and I appreciate your comments in taking ownership for the misread on this when we saw it through the interim town manager, your counsel. So I appreciate you owning that in your comments. And nobody's perfect, so, but it's frustrating, and at the same time, I see this as an opportunity for us, maybe a blessing in disguise, as previous speakers have mentioned, to revisit this tonight and rethink it up here and also here as to what might be the best thing for our town. So in terms of process, being a non-attorney and in my upset over this process a week or so ago, I was determined that we could push back on this through Robert's rules and some of the parliamentary procedures, of which I'm pretty ignorant, but have tried to go to school on quickly. And if I've had people asking me in email and phone call and personally over the last week or so, why can't we do this and why can't we do that based on this section 37 or 38 or 39 of Robert's rules? And it's been explained to me that legally, it doesn't seem like we have those options to push back. If either of you could speak to this process in terms of specifically prevailing party, and I do have other comments.
Councilor Page, we're still in remarks to public participation, so I don't know if you want to do that now or if it would make more sense to do that as we discuss.
Time before the vote?
Well, there's always discussion before a vote,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
As long as we.
I just
do
want to
that.
make sure.
No, I appreciate your clarifying process in terms of comments. I just wanted to get that out there. I'll save the rest of my remarks. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other counselors for remarks to public participation? Kim? Counselor
I
Raddick?
think Counselor Camillo was prior to me. You had your hand raised. I have comments, but I will save those for when the agenda item comes up before us. What I do want to say, which I say always, is thank everyone here and on Zoom and on the phone who did offer their opinions, their commentary. It's important. This is a democracy. We want to hear people's voices. Everyone's voice is important and holds weight. I do want to, and I can also defer to Attorney Ancona on this. There was a comment made, I think, by Ms. Havens regarding state statute and how that has some weight on what the situation we find ourselves in tonight. But I recall in Attorney Ancona's, I think, first opinion, if not second opinion letter, that state statutes do not override town charter for good or bad or evil. We have to look at what is in our town charter, not what is in our state statute. If that needs further clarification, I defer to you on that. Many good points were made, and I think what we're all looking for is a balance and to tamp down the divisiveness and I would dare say hostility that has been bubbling up. I'm looking forward to further comments, further discussion this evening, and thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor Raddick. I did hear your request, and I will talk more about when the vote comes, kind of rationales, yay or nay. But it doesn't kind of belong right here. I don't think it'll fit more under when we actually take the action up. I did hear from many people, and I just want to say, one, I do appreciate folks being willing to come forward and express their opinions, concerns. Many people reached out by phone, by text, lots of folks weighing in on this. Even at our last meeting, we had quite a crowd also. So I do appreciate that people are taking the time to pay attention to the issue and at least reach out to us and let us know what they're thinking and how they feel about the issue at hand. That being said, I think we can move on to the item number 5, resignations and appointments. We do have a motion in the packet, and I see, Counselor Camillo, you have your hand up. Would you?
At this point, can I make a nomination from the floor?
I already recognized Counselor Camillo, so that's,
So I can do that after.
he's got the floor right now, but,
Okay.
yeah.
Newington Town Council moves to renew the motion taken up during the January 24th, 2023 regular town council meeting for the appointment of Carol Annis for the vacant town council seat, and now it be further resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointment. Newington Town Council, Carol Annis, 30 Harding Ave, Party D, from 2/6/2023 to 11/14/2023 for the resignation of Sharon Braverman.
For a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Mankey, and I'll open it for discussion. Counselor Page, is your hand up?
And
for that?
again, maybe this is a procedural clarification I need from folks with more knowledge of this, but in our last meeting, we had a document, I know Counselor Rad is going to address this in her remarks for clarification, that a similar document that had John Trister's name on it, we were prepared, we thought, to vote on Mr. Trister, and Counselor Camillo brought a nomination from the floor for Carol Annis. We never got an opportunity to vote for John Trister, so I was just looking for us at some point tonight to be able to bring our nomination from the floor to a vote.
I mean, procedurally, any motion can be brought from the floor, and I typically go by, recognizing whoever I call on first. And that's kind of how we've always operated. So I did call on Counselor Camillo to read the motion. It is the one that was in the packet. So we can discuss this one and then see where it lands. If it's in the affirmative, it's in the affirmative. If it's a negative vote, then there would certainly be room for another motion, I would assume.
And with all due respect, I would just point out, our name was in the packet and it was ignored, and immediately Counselor Camillo was allowed to bring his nomination from the floor. So I'm just pointing that out for the record. Thank you. I'll defer.
Thank you, Counselor Page. There is a motion and a second on the floor. I would open it for council discussion. Counselor Radder?
Yes, a few points. One that Counselor Page just alluded to. Two questions that I still have not received clear answers on. And I don't expect a response immediately at this point tonight, but I would like to have this looked into. One relating to what Counselor Page just mentioned, that the nominations, I understand that nominations can be put forth by any counselor. However, my question is, how did a nomination and a vote from the table supersede a resolution that was documented as an agenda item? Number one, and why did Mr. Trister's nomination put forward through the appropriate process by the NDTC, Newington Democratic Town Committee, disappear? At some point, I would like clarification and response to that. A few comments that I would like to make, if you would indulge me for a moment. We're faced with a situation that flies in the face of a decades-long precedent of respect and honor across both parties. We've heard a lot about this tonight. We heard a lot about that at the last meeting. The majority party determined that as Democrats, and this is my perception, determined that we are not capable, nor were afforded the option of discerning a candidate to fill the unexpired term of our distinguished town council colleague, Dr. Braverman. It ignored the procedure that was set forth by both town committees historically. As a supermajority, I feel that a will has been imposed upon us, proposedly legal per our town charter, but with disregard and disrespect, and I might add dishonoring the respectful and the ethical tradition that is, to this point, that has existed in our community and in our democratic process up to this point, whether it is Republican or Democrat vacancies on the council, on boards, on commissions. This current circumstance unfortunately overshadows the good work and the commitment of Dr. Braverman, of Mr. Trister, and Ms. Anist. And I find that regrettable. We tout the importance of transparency in government, of bipartisanship, yet this reflects neither, in my opinion. Has a new precedent been established, or is a new precedent in the process of being established? That's a question that I raise. The situation we find ourselves in this evening really benefits neither party in the long run, and it does a disservice to any nominee, and it does a disservice to the residents in our community. Bipartisanship, trust, and mutual respect, from what I have heard over the last 2 weeks, has been tarnished, to say the least. And this is a poor example to our community. And if I may speak for my colleague, Councilor Page, regardless of the result of tonight's vote, we will rise above this, excuse me, continue to honor the promise that we made to our constituents, and we will do our best to work hard for the benefit of our community.
Thank you, Councilor Rada. Other council comment?
When I come back, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, your hand is up. I didn't know if it was from before.
No, that's fine, or if when others need to go first, because I've spoken once already and I would defer.
No one else's hand is up
Okay, I
unless
just
someone
wanted
else
to make
wants to
sure.
speak.
Okay. I would just reiterate, thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
I just wanted to reiterate that at some point I'd like further explanation as to parliamentary procedure or Robert's rules, if that's more appropriate, and how it's allowed that a name that's been brought up once already that has failed to win sufficient votes is being allowed to be brought up again by the same party. My read of that as a non-attorney is that that is improper procedure, and that is the prevailing party, which I believe we are by definition of you having failed to achieve the required 5 votes, are next in line to bring up our party's nomination. So I just would like clarification on that.
Would you like the town attorney to join now, or?
Could I'll finish my comments.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you, but thank you, Mayor. I also just want to point out the obvious that the two of us, Councilor Rada and I, sit here and a third empty seat, and there are 6 people in a supermajority, 6 people that were the will of the people, and that's a good thing. That's what Newington wanted. That's what Newington got. And over 90% of the time, 3 of us, probably over 95% of the time, we build consensus, we vote with consensus, and sometimes we have skirmishes on how we might do things or a certain policy or a budgetary item, but it's really the minority of the time. But nonetheless, with a supermajority, with 6-3 running our town, they also have the opportunity to appoint our town attorney, ultimately to vote for our next town manager, regardless of who that is. And we've got meetings this week to further that process along with our consulting group. So to the point of this being an unnecessary move tonight, if in fact the council votes for Ms. Annis to fill this seat, it seems like killing a fly with a sledgehammer. It seems unnecessary. The majority party has control of all boards and commissions of TPZ, which is an important role. And the TPC has done some very nice work. I know sometimes people disagree, and there have been controversies, and there will continue to be, as there are in any town when there's development. But you guys run the table, and this is unnecessary as a result of that. You know, there's the saying that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that is my concern tonight. I've known Councilor Mankey and Councilor Donnie, who's out because of technical issues with his computer. But I think he's online and participating for decades. And I have nothing but tremendous respect for both of them, as I do for all of you. But I've known you guys longer, and I'll continue to have tremendous respect. You're good people, but you're doing a bad thing tonight. You know, the other point I would make is that I think we're confusing a noun with a verb. Democrat is a noun, a person, place, or thing. I learned on Sesame Street years ago and in school, right? A person, place, or thing. So we talk about Democrats, the noun. And Carol is a Democrat, a good Democrat. She has served our town well. And that is not, as others have pointed out, the issue here. It is the verb that we're debating tonight. It is the act and the process of democracy. And being engaged in this process, especially with a supermajority and respecting our right to name our person, Carol, as others have pointed out, could have. And I wish she had gone through the process with our party to seek this seat. And we would have respected that process. And I can't say how that would have come out because I'm not a voting member of the DTC. I don't believe Councilor Rada is. We don't vote, and that may sound weird to you. Wait a second, but you're sitting here as a minority leader and council member representing Democrats. We don't vote. That is up to the committee. And so, but that didn't happen. Mr. Trister went through that process. He was vetted and competed with other people to sit in this seat, which has tremendous honor and responsibility. And I find it offensive and patronizing and condescending that a supermajority that runs the town is telling our DTC that we're not capable of naming on appointment to follow in Dr. Braverman's seat and to learn, a highly intelligent man working on a graduate degree, to learn the process, whether it's budgetary or others. Myself and Councilor Rada, we have lots of education. You wouldn't know it sometimes. Trust me, my wife points it out regularly. But we have lots of education, and we came into this, I think I could speak for both of us, not knowing much at all, as Rodney Mortensen pointed out, about government, but wanting to serve, wanting to learn and be vulnerable and be transparent and say, I don't know how to do that. Can you tell me, Tim or Beth or Mike or somebody, let's learn how to do this well. We're still fighting for our cause is what we believe in, but we all can learn, and the learning curve is steep, and that's how we get involved. So I'm going to wrap up and just say, I ask that you all, I implore you to please do the right thing tonight. Respect our minority right to choose our candidate, to choose who sits in our caucus, and focus on the verb, respect Dr. Braverman's wishes, and vote for John Trister for town council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Page. Any other council comment?
Councilor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Attorney Ancona, did you want to address?
Could I? Yeah, thank you, Attorney. Thank you.
Councilor Page was questioning the right for a renewal motion essentially, and how a motion can be brought back that had failed.
Sure, if you look at my opinion, it discusses.
Would you, I'm sorry, would you mind just coming to the mic so the public can hear you as well?
If you look at that opinion, Rule 38 governs, and it specifically states that a motion can be brought or renewed at any future meeting, and here we are.
And the language that speaks, as Councilor Page was mentioning, there's language in Robert's rules about not being able to be brought forth again. That's more for in the same session, if I'm correct.
We don't have that situation, correct?
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification.
Was there another part of your question? I want to make sure we got it all.
No, I just, because in part, and I don't know if you're prepared to respond tonight, again, it's the goal is not to put you on the spot. It's to, if you're prepared to respond to Councilor Rada's question about, you can speak for yourself. Just the concern was that in the rush and in the surprise from January 23rd and then into our meeting the 24th and the heated nature of the meeting for everyone in the room, that these details and our rights were, it was felt, it sounds like it's legally not accurate, we're being trampled. I feel like in many other ways, as I've spoken to tonight, there's continuing to be trampled if we move forward with Carol Annis' nomination. But I just want to make sure that we understand, and whoever out there is listening, pay attention, that in fact, the rights of the minority have been respected procedurally.
Yes, good answer. They are being respected procedurally. And if you'll notice under 204 of our charter, there is no provision that accounts for a nomination from a party. It's not in there. And I have a suspicion that, and it goes both ways, both parties, this has happened. I suspect that our founding fathers realized that maybe all nominations from the party may not be a good thing. I don't know, I'm speculating, but it's not in our charter. The charter says that this council has the right to nominate or approve a person to replace a retiring councilor, but it has to be of the same party, and that's what we have here. excuse me, we don't have a state statute that's on point, so I'm not sure what the caller was. I think she may have meant the charter. So the charter governs in this situation, and it's pretty clear as to the choice. I'm sorry, I'm taking full responsibility about what happened and why we're here again. I should have looked more closely and noted that we needed 5 affirmative votes for such a replacement. So we're here doing it again, and frankly, it's my fault.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, do you have any other follow-up questions? I want to make sure everything's addressed.
I think Councilor Mankey, you're.
Okay, he's here, so I'll yield.
Thank you. Again, getting
Gentlewoman from my left.
my esteemed counselor. Again, getting back to the question of it's procedural. In terms of sequence, we had 2 resolutions that were on the agenda. One was the resolution to accept the resignation of Dr. Braverman, which was read, voted on, and passed. The next resolution was the nomination of Mr. Trister to fill that unexpired seat. Before that could occur, which would have been in sequential order, there was a nomination from the floor that superseded the original resolution that was in the agenda that we were ready to move on. However, the vote would have fallen. And that was my concern, that this kind of reorganization of the agenda on the fly took place. And I'm questioning that.
Yeah, I don't think the mayor did it intentionally. I think we had a motion that was made.
Hand up, and I always kind of go through the window. I called on.
Gone in the
Councilor Camillo.
inverse order.
By Robert's rules, a motion can be brought up off the floor.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that. Absolutely not. My question is, why was it not determined that we have a resolution that we need to address now, and we will take your nomination after we complete the second resolution, which is part of the agenda. And the second resolution was after Dr. Braverman's acceptance of her retirement, it was voting on the nomination of Mr. Trister.
I mean, quite simply, I called on the counselor that had his hand up, thinking that whatever motion was in would be read. And Councilor Camillo brought up a different nomination, so that was then recognized on the floor. I don't have the right to tell a counselor he can't bring something for it. So when his hand was up in the window, I called on him, and the nomination was there.
And that's really the extent of it.
All right.
I don't.
I'm
Counselor, I don't see anything-
I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not gonna, I don't want to say anything at this time.
Okay. Councilor Mankey?
Yeah, certainly I've been giving this some thought, and I've heard tonight the word precedence spoken of over and over again. In my lifetime, or in my experience in politics, I've known a number of occasions where there's a councilor that has stepped down, and an occasion of a mayor that stepped down. And in the past, it has been the precedent that the party would send a replacement. To my knowledge, all the replacements that were sent had a number of things, a number of requirements. They all had experience in town government from the past. They'd all served on boards of commissions. Many of them had already been elected in their own right to a elected office, not an appointed office, but elected office. And they all had served with many years in public service. That, I think, is the precedent that has gone forward to this point. Never in the past has there been 2 candidates, as far as I know. But here we are, we have 2 candidates. How we got here, we have, I'm not sure, but we have 2 candidates. Why Mrs. Annis didn't go to her party and through the nomination process for her party, I can't answer that, because I'm not her, and that's something you should ask her. But my problem is if we take someone from the floor and just ignore them because they're not nominated by their party, that's really doing a disservice from, I think, to the town of Newington. in 25 days, we're going to start deliberating our budget. And it may be just me, but I'm getting, every time I see the news, I'm getting more and more nervous about my budget, let alone the town's budget. These are big decisions. They're hard decisions. As former Mayor Mortensen said, you can learn on the fly, but it's hard to learn on the fly, especially if you just learned on the fly 25 days ago. These are hard decisions. These are tough decisions. These are decisions that will affect Newington going forward for years to come. My goal is to serve this town with the best candidate to fill that seat that we can. A candidate that has experience, has knowledge, and has the demonstrated ability to think for the town. I like Mr. Trister. I will say that his comments at the end of last meeting, I think, did a lot to calm the waters that were overly heated. And I think that serves him well in the future. But I think I'm looking for who can serve this town right now, 25 days from the budget, to the best of our ability to get a budget across. And I would hope that's what all of us want. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, but a Newington budget, something we can all live with. That's what's important. And I think someone mentioned it, if I had my way, we wouldn't have a Republican side and a Democratic side and a Republican side. We have a Newington side, and we would all check our initials at the door. But the reality is we aren't. We all get on Facebook and we all yap at each other as Republicans or as Democrats, but nobody talks about what it is best for the town. And that's what I'm looking for. I think we need someone who can fill this spot in the time we're at, close to budget time, with the experience, the knowledge, and the track record of being able to move us forward, because this is going to be a difficult budget year. I already had one meeting with the Board of Ed last Wednesday, and I'm sure that the acting town manager is going to send us another shockwave of what the town budget will look like. I mean, every time my wife goes to the store and buys a dozen eggs, I have fewer eggs for breakfast. And I think we're all having that same problem. I have a stack of bills on my desk that have increased way over what I'm comfortable with. We all have tough decisions to make. And I want the best people here to make those tough decisions. So I want what's best for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mackey.
Your Honor.
Yes.
May I be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I should have just said.
Any other council comment? I'll just offer, it's hard to follow Councilor Mankey. He kind of said a lot of what I was thinking, but I will offer that in reading the charter and the language that clearly states it's this body's job to fill a vacancy. There is no language regarding appointments from either side coming forward from a specific committee, Democratic or Republican. We talk about precedent, but I agree with Councilor Mankey. This is a new situation that we have not been faced with before. So in the past, when nominations were brought forward, it was brought forward from a town committee. But we've never had a resident who then expressed interest in a position on their own, as Councilor Annis did in her letter. And the way I'm viewing this is, and I'm not trying to belittle it, but I kind of am thinking of us as a council as the interview committee, so to speak. So it's, I've had plenty of interviews where I work where, a colleague would say to me, I have the best candidate for that position. They are so awesome. I've worked with them in this school before. I think they're great. You really should consider them. And my answer would always be, gosh, have them send their resume in and I'll, mention it to my admin, whatever. And if I'm on the interview panel and that person comes in and they interview and I say, wow, so-and-so was right. That person could do a great job. I think they would be a great social worker or school teacher or whatever we're interviewing for. And then a few hours later, as we go through the interviews, another candidate comes in and blows your socks off and has more credentials and more experience and more whatever, that you're looking at that person saying, well, they're better qualified, they're a better fit, they're better suited. And then I'm faced with that decision. Do I listen to my colleague who said, oh, so-and-so is the best choice? Or do I go with what my gut is telling me is the right thing to do for that position, for who's most qualified and would be the best fit? And I would go with the person that I think is the best fit. And I would call my colleague later and say, I really appreciate it. And I think so-and-so is great, but we had another candidate that was better qualified. So when I look at the two folks before us for consideration, and this evening we have Carol Annis in the motion that's currently on the table. I know that she served for 6 years on the town council. I know that she has sat through 6 budgets, more than that realistically in her other experiences, but 6 as a counselor. She's been through a town manager search. She has faced the types of issues and things that this council has to face in the very near future. And I will tell you right now, we don't always see eye to eye. She and I have argued a number of times at this table. And that's fine. I respect that and I honor that. And that is the process. And she's always been very respectful and collaborative. You take a vote, you move on, that's business of the council. And because of what I know about her resume and her experiences and what she has in the past brought to the table and can in the future, those are the reasons why I am looking I'm considering her for the position of counselor. So I just wanted to share, I know one of the members of the public asked for the whys, and that for me would be the whys. The other person that was brought forward, Mr. Trister, I have no doubt is a wonderful man. I don't know him well. I've met him a couple of times. And he has served on the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, but has not kind of been through those other things that I mentioned already. So for those reasons, I believe that, as Councilor Page said, just because you can do it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Just because I can accept a nomination from someone because they say they're right doesn't mean I believe it's right. So I have to go with my gut and what I think is right. And for this particular vacancy that's open right now, I do believe that Councilor Annis has the credentials to fill that spot and do it well. Any other council comment? All right, I don't see any, and there's no hands up, so we will move. I believe a roll call vote would be in order.
Councilor Draco.
Well, I obviously can't vote against Carol because that would be absurd. She's excellent. She'd be a great addition to this council. However, we have to go with what we believe, and I can't condone or endorse or feel comfortable with the methodology that got us to the point where this resolution was brought forward, so I'm abstaining.
Councilor Camillo.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Menke.
Yes.
Councilor Nagel.
Yes.
Councilor Page.
This is a terrible precedent. I vote no.
Councilor Rada.
I vote no.
Mayor Lobuno.
Yes.
5 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. Okay, we will move on now to public participation. Same as earlier, any member of the public may come forward. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record. If you are in the Zoom application, you can raise your hand in the public participation window or on your phone by dialing *9. Mr. Ryan, you have the floor.
I was hoping somebody could clarify something. The discussions took place between Kim, Mitch, and the town attorney. I think Mitch and Kim were asking why 2 weeks ago, town council meeting, John Trister's name wasn't put forward on the floor for consideration. And I think you're asking if we could put on the floor at this meeting tonight, correct?
We don't typically.
I'm going to try to respect our rules tonight and not respond and get into dialogue.
It should have come before the town council meeting 2 weeks ago. It should have, correct? No. And I think you were asking if his name could be put forward here tonight because it didn't have the opportunity to put forward 2 weeks ago. I think that's all you're asking. And it makes sense to me. His name was never put on the floor for consideration. And now it's not going to be put to the floor. correct? John Fisher's name.
A vote was taken.
Right.
Mhm.
So John's name never came to the floor for consideration, even though he's on the agenda 2 weeks ago, correct? That's correct, right? He was on the agenda 2 weeks ago.
By council rules, we do not engage in public participation. We can comment afterward.
Okay, I'll do another comment. There are a lot of speakers here tonight, and by my tabulation, there were 2 who spoke in favor of what you voted for tonight, and everybody else spoke against what you did tonight. Now, there's probably 16, 17 speakers that voted against what you did tonight. Now, that's your constituency, voters. They don't like what you're doing. You should think about that. Any comments? I'll leave it at that. I won't even discuss your comments. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Kathleen Gonzalez, 44 Basswood Street. I just want to express that it's really disturbing what happened tonight. Deputy Mayor, at least I have a lot of respect for you. You did not vote, and you said the truth and how you really felt, and I think that's important. Everybody sitting up here knows what's going on, knows the game that's being played, and knows what's happening. And I just think it's disgusting for everybody involved. I don't know how the town moves forward from this. I really don't. And I guarantee that if it was the reverse way, you guys would not have wanted that to happen. You would be sitting in this seat and they would be sitting in that seat. And not one of you can say that you would. Politics is ugly, and this wasn't good. It's very, very, very disturbing to me. That's it.
Clark Castell, 167 Connecticut Avenue. The human mind is a great rationalizing machine. That's all I have to say. Except I will repeat what I said before. I can't imagine any circumstances or any sphere of life where you get to choose your own opponents. Really, really respect Gail Bedrecko, Deputy Mayor, more than I ever have. Thank you.
We do have one online there.
Oh, do you want to hit it online?
No, go ahead. I'll take that next.
Eileen Franklino, 116 Lydall Road. Last week and a half ago, when I spoke, I mentioned the idea that by breaking precedent, that this was quite possibly the opening of Pandora's box. So tonight, I'd like to read you a little bit about the story of Pandora. As a wedding present, Zeus gave Pandora a box. In ancient Greece, they called it a jar, but warned her never to open it. Pandora was created to be curious, and she couldn't stay away from the box, and the urge to open it overcame her. Horrible things flew out of the box, including greed, envy, and hatred. Pandora slammed the lid of the box back down. The last thing remaining inside the box was hope. Ever since, humans have been able to hold on to this hope in order to survive the wickedness that Pandora had let out. So my hope tonight is that there is still some hope that this council can figure out a way to work together, that this town can figure out a way together, and that this schism between our parties that has caused nothing but trouble will someday be rectified, and we can all learn to work together and come together and work for what's best of the town. This in no way was an effort to make a better budget, a more bipartisan budget. You guys got 6-3. You know, it doesn't matter. It's still going to get, you're still going to get what you want. So to call it an effort to bring, you know, a better ideas to the table, I don't know, it seems to be a bit of a joke. I I hope in the future that things like this will never happen. I hope that this was a one-off from precedent, and that in the future we'll never, ever see something like this happen again.
I'm going to go to an online caller, but if someone else in the room is wanting to come up, they are able to, and I'll just go to this one first. The caller ID, the last three numbers are 401. Caller, are you there? Phone number ending in 401. It's showing as unmuted, but I don't hear anyone. Right? Caller, are you there? Well, we'll keep them in the queue and we'll just go on to another caller if that's, and if we'll go back to that caller to see if they're able to get unmuted.
I think we had a gentleman who wanted to speak.
Is there someone else in the room?
Mayor, council, men and women, all respect to you all. This is the toughest thing in a long time for me to think about. I owe no allegiance to either party. I have been up since 2 o'clock in the morning, went to bed back at 7. I've been kicking this around, reading everything I could read, reread it, what the lawyers said, what everybody said. I've listened to folks and I'm listening carefully. It's a very, 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 very hard one. I can see, ma'am, why you abstained. It's because it's so painful. The emotional part, the intellectual part. It's a real whopper. You know, on one side, you got folks who want to say they want the best for the town in terms of experience, and that this lady who's from the floor being nominated has that in spades. And then on the other side, you're hearing folks saying, we want as a party to be able to put forward who we want to put forward as a party. Then that simplified, you got the many other factors that are involved in all this put aside, because is there goodwill here or is there evil intent lurking about? Because that's what I'm hearing, that there's something lurking about that you all know what it is. I haven't heard that yet, because I respect the party's right to have its will spoken. And all history aside, when there's such a tension between the parties, we have to rely on structure. We have to rely on law. We have to rely on in this case, charters. You know, we could say this side's doing this and this side's not doing that and so forth. But what is allowable under the charter? If I could only hear what you all know is this is all really about. I haven't heard that from either side. So I have to lean on structure and rule of law and not one person's intentions or virtues or best more honorable than this side or that side. It's just what's allowable, yes, is not always great, but if you can't prove ill will on the other side in a very demonstrable way, then I see it as the majority, according to the statute, not statute, I beg your pardon, but the the rules by which you are governed. Must lead the way and get us out of this mess. And we must get back to, as was said, the heart has to be reestablished. The mind has to be reestablished here. We need to salve the wounds that have been created, and we have to start moving forward that we will help one another. We agree with one another, and it's been said most of the time. So that's not a big loss. We
I
recognize.
have to ask you to sum up just because you're over the time limit. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm so sorry.
You can have a minute to finish, or a couple seconds at least.
We've all, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of hurt people, a lot of emotional opinions, one way or the other. And I have some knowledge of some people in this room, and I don't have knowledge of others, but I just had to, my clearest way of seeing it is that in my opinion, very, very carefully considered over this, is that I believe we have to have goodwill and go with the process. Because the process, without a process, a legal process, backed by a charter, we're astray. And we can fight each other for till the dogs come home.
Thank you.
Name and address?
Hi, Brian Rainier, Eugene Rainier, 11 Webster Court.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take an online caller. I'll try the 401, and if they're not able to participate, I'll take the next caller. Caller whose number is ending in 401. You are still muted. Okay, we're gonna go to the next caller, Mr. Helvey.
Hi, Forrest Helvey, 282 Lamplighter Lane. I can't help but think back to when I used to coach football, and we would have times when we would be running the score. We'd be doing really well. The other team was having a really rough game. And I absolutely had every right and ability to keep my first string up and keep them running and you know, let some of those older players just really pad the stats. Fully allowable, but it didn't feel right. So, you know, and I will tell you, when we had those days when we were getting pounded into the ground, it was certainly appreciated when the other team didn't run the score up on us. And there were certainly days when somebody else chose not to. I can distinctly remember one game where we lost 90-7. It was not a fun bus ride home. And there's an element of it where I could understand that other team that got 90, one of their kids went on to play D1 football. That coach could very easily rationalize it, that he was taking care of that one student, that one athlete, because he was helping him have a fantastic game that was going to help make a highlight reel. You could easily rationalize that off. But what was the message that sent about that program? What was the message that was sent about sportsmanship to every one of those players on the field? First string, second string, third string. That's football. This is government. There's different rules. This might be an apples to oranges comparison. But I can't help but feel like this was a 90-7 game tonight. I understand that there's some immediate needs. Those star athletes had some immediate needs. But I wonder what the message is going to be long-term. And it's not an easy decision, and I understand that. But I do think that for those who voted in favor, somebody said this, the votes are going to go your way either way. It's a super majority. When you have that kind of ability, I think now we need to start seeing some healing happening, because I can guarantee you there's a lot of folks who are feeling very disaffected and very jaded after what just happened. So the onus is on our majority party to start healing some breaks that just happened tonight. And the last point I would just say is to Councilor Bedrejko, I really respect the decision you made. I know that that wasn't easy, but sometimes the right move is a hard one, and really respect that vote. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hovey. Anyone else in the room? I do have another hand up online. Caller ending in 737.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, John Bashan, 56 Maple Hill Avenue. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Hi, just wanted to make some comments, like everyone else, on the appointment of Ms. Anest to the council. I fully support your decision, and I just think that I can't believe really how over dramatized people are making this. I do like Clark's comment about, I think he said something about the spirit of the law gives life and the letter takes it away, but there's a perfect example of being overly dramatic. So, you know, and then you had people threatening with your constituency. I am your constituency, and I support you. I would have supported you either way, whichever way you decided to go. So I think you have a super majority because you got a mandate from the majority of voters in this town to trust you to do what you feel is right. We have to trust you, and nothing's changed in that regard, in my opinion. So just wanted to say I support you, and I just think it's been way over dramatized for an appointment that's going to last, what, 8 or 9 months or something like that. So thank you for the time, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Bashan. Anyone else in the room?
Bob Tallard, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, I just witnessed another third coup d'etat, Beth. Great job. Proud of yourself. It's terrible. I expect people to have any positive feelings when you guys control monopoly. You know, this is Trumpism is really what you're doing here. You took a book out of Donald Trump and you put it into a town. You just infested a disease throughout the town. At least one person on your side has some class, courage to vote against this sham. Very disappointed. You guys, sorry. No, it's too bad you got railroaded. It's sad. It's really sad. I was reading this is the rare reminder. It says, Beth, that you, quoting you, in error. That's a really serious error. You get the charter wrong, don't you think? And you know, like somebody said you were appointed mayor, so you probably need to go back and do some homework yourself. Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, it's very sad. Trump's alive and well in Newington, huh? But hopefully you resign, Beth, is really why I'm here. You need to resign. You need to resign. You need to resign. You need to resign. And John Donahue, who literally attacked somebody last time we had a meeting here, should resign too. That was terrible. He jumped up and was ready to jump somebody who just leaving the room made a comment that was, yeah, he was expressing his feelings, and you have a right to. We still have the First Amendment, hopefully. Let's see, last time I checked my watch. Yeah. Still there. So you guys need to resign, along with John, and he needs to cool his temper. No wonder why he's not here tonight. And we have our Newington's finest, Reza. How you doing? Good to see you guys. Thanks for being here to protect us from John Donahue, but he didn't show up because he's afraid to. But thank you guys for being here to protect us from him. I really do appreciate that. Well, I'm running out of time. Well, Beth, please resign. It's best for the town of Newington, it really is.
Right, I'm gonna look online one more time. The person that had their hand up, it looks like they took it down. Yeah, I don't have any attendees with their hands up. Do you see anybody? No? Anyone else in the room? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You've got room. We've got, council.
House counts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Council comments. I apologize for that, guys. Jumped the gun. Councilor Camillo?
Wouldn't be in this room if it wasn't for Carol. I met her years ago, got involved with the Democrats, and things changed. They had new leadership, and it was time for me to move on to Republicans. I thought more like a Republican anyhow. But Carol and I have been friends for years, and this was a good move tonight for the town. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilor Page.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just respond first to everyone, as Councilor Radis said earlier, we do sincerely appreciate people coming out for or against any issue. That's what this is all about. And I would just respond to Mr. Vachon. I thank you for your comments, sir, but I respectfully disagree. I don't think any of us can be too dramatic or emphatic or passionate about our democracy and the way it works. And this process that happened tonight doesn't have implications just between now and November 7th, I think it is. This goes well beyond that, and it's much greater than just a little seat over there on a small town council. This is a very, very important issue, and I welcome everyone's passion on both sides. And I think it's an indication of how seriously we take our democracy, our country, and the documents that govern us. And I'll never apologize for being passionate or dramatic. And so I would invite others to be just as passionate and engaged and dramatic in our thought and in our speech and in our engagement with one another over these issues. And we intend to continue to do that. And as Councilor Radis said earlier, we intend to continue to govern responsibly and to work with Republicans and Democrats on our budget. And we'll have some skirmishes, we'll agree on some things, but we will continue to do the business of the people and end up with a responsible budget and hopefully continue to work on all of our responsible policies moving forward. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Page. I will say that having sat at this table and the Board of Education table as an elected official for going on 20 years, there have been many votes that I've been dissatisfied with, upset about, or that have been difficult to make. And this is clearly one of those nights. It was not easy for any of us, I don't think. And I will say to you that I agree wholeheartedly, as with every vote, whether we agree or disagree. Once the vote is taken, that's the end of that item, and we move on to doing the next business for the town. And so from here on out, every motion that comes forward, we will work as best we can together and collaboratively and do what we can for the town of Newington, because that's what we were elected for. And we don't have to agree on every issue, and we won't, and that's okay. And that's why we're all here. Is there have to be two sides to every story, and we have to listen to it. So I respect you and I appreciate that. Any other council comment? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Nagel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 7:59 p.m. Thank you, everyone.